1, 2, 3.
Welcome to Arts and Leisure on the HAN Network. This is our weekly program featuring everything that is coming up in the area's music, arts, and entertainment scene. We will interview local artists, authors, musicians, and even some nationally recognized names who may be performing here in our area. We will have movie reviews and film suggestions from the real dad, Mark Schumann, and etiquette tips from Catherine Michaels. This is your all-access pass, and here are your hosts, Arts and Leisure editor Sally Sanders and our entertainment reporter Steve Coulter.
Welcome to HAN Arts and Leisure. I'm Steve Coulter, joined by Sally Sanders and Mark Schumann as always.
Hey there.
How you guys doing?
Good.
On the film docket today, we're talking biopics with the national release of Steve Jobs. We talked about it a little bit 2 weeks ago when you weren't here, Mark, but I believe you gave it the full 5 popcorn rating. The real dad was a big fan.
I have a great fear that this movie will be ignored. That for whatever reason...
It's too loud to be ignored. Come on.
No, I just have this fear. I'm going to be watching those weekend grosses like it was a football game. But my fear is that people will think, I know everything I need to know about this man. And I
because
don't
I've seen Ashton Kutcher play him.
Yeah. Well, that certainly was a performance to recommend. But they think, I don't need to know anymore. What is marvelous about this film is that it dares to explore 3 chapters in his life. We have often talked about the challenge of biopics trying to cover too much ground. This one doesn't even try. This is like a 3-act play, and each act focuses on a pivotal moment in Steve Jobs' life, in real time pretty much, each one. And it's just a beautiful film.
And then to tell a story without even going to the 21st century, which is where he's had his most impact.
Right. I mean, it goes back to the early products. And, of course, being the person who did buy a Macintosh 125K back in the day.
Did it say hello to you?
I don't remember if it said hello, and did use McPaint, and did teach Jonathan how to draw using McPaint, and then did buy a Newton, and all these things, and did buy the original iMac.
So you were an early adopter.
So the scene with his daughter at the beginning hit home to you.
But what really hits home is this is a film that could have gone many different directions. It could have been a very traditional, and then he invented this, and then he invented that, and let's have a few scenes of the private life. It doesn't at all give us what we might expect. Instead, it goes so behind the curtain that we feel we're almost intruding on this man's life.
And I know
fascinating.
Screenwriter Aaron Sorkin said at the NY Film Festival Q&A that he was really all about making it in claustrophobic spaces. You see air for about maybe 2 scenes. I think you're outside the theaters.
No, and you do, when they're on the top of the building, and
those are the only 2 scenes: the ending and then the one.
And
scene
also,
with Seth Rogen.
there's such a sense of urgency, like he's always going to be late, and so every pivotal conversation happens when he's supposed to be somewhere else.
Right.
And all of a sudden he's having these critical moments in his personal life. As with all biopics, we never know how accurate they are, and we don't know how accurate this is. It has been carefully researched. It is sanctioned by the man who wrote the book on which it's based.
This is Walter Isaacs.
Yeah,
who was sanctioned by Steve Jobs.
And there were a lot of interviews. The cast members that day at the New York Film Festival talked about how they each had interviewed as much as they could those people who they were portraying. It, however, is as much about the time in which this man worked and thrived and what he wanted to create. And anyone who leads any organization is very intent upon creating a legacy. And he wanted his legacy to be that we changed how people live. And that happened.
And he certainly did.
That happened. We do not live the same way because of what he did.
It's almost unimaginable to someone who's 18 what life was like 30 years ago.
It is. And who would have known? We used to laugh that what do you do with a dead Macintosh? You use it as a doorstop because they were so heavy and so cumbersome. But he dared to say that this elite product could be trusted in the hands of everyday people. And that's what he'll always, I think, be most remembered for.
Now, you said you're afraid that it's going to be kind of swept under the carpet. Why do you feel that way?
It's serious. It's talky.
It's very talky. It's the most talky biopic of all time.
And it doesn't have all those things. And I have a fear every time a serious film that dares to have dialogue comes out that it will be ignored. I have the same fear about the movie Truth, because it is very focused and very deep. And I just have this fear that all of a sudden from the left wing will come, banana oil 10, and it'll take the grosses.
But it's an adult film. And,
it is.
And
And
people are going to the movies more, adults are going to the movies more again.
And as much as it's an adult film, and it certainly has language and those things, it is a film that I would want a teenager to see, because I would want the teenager to see what the world was like before we had all these products that you have to have. And that it took, and it takes people to dedicate their lives to create that kind of change. It doesn't just happen. And one thing you really do get from this is, as controversial as he may have been, and we don't know about the dynamics of his personal life, but this is someone who worked really hard.
Always, always.
And you never doubt how hard he's working. And the people around him, you don't doubt how hard he's working. And
you certainly don't, the cast and crew are certainly working very hard to make this movie as energetic as possible. Right. They were trying very hard.
And I loved it in the discussion when they talked about this fabulous thing called rehearsal.
Yeah.
And they actually got to rehearse it, because this is structured like a 3-act play. And
that's what makes it very unique compared to other biopics, is the structure of it.
And the fact that Danny Boyle shoots each act in a different kind of stock.
Was it 16 millimeter for the first one?
16, then 35, and then high definition.
I thought the first one was the best. That was just, it looked
has
so
that
authentic.
80s grainy look.
Does he do very long takes? I haven't seen it, I confess.
It doesn't have that much of the traditional Aaron Sorkin walk and talk that we know from his television work. It doesn't feel that, but they're very long scenes. Those scenes are long, and like there's several sequences in the dressing room, and that's where you feel the claustrophobia. It's like, let somebody out of this room.
Yeah, they're in a room inside of a room inside of a building.
Yeah. And they don't have a chance to get out. And,
right.
and then there's this crowd always waiting for him to go out and talk. So what I love about the film, among many things, is it does have such a sense of urgency. Like, we have something to say, and we've created this movie so you can learn. And so no matter why we may go to this movie, we're going to leave enriched. Part of it will be learning more about the times, part of it learning more about the products, part of it learning more about the man, and actually learning something about ourselves, in that we're changed because this man dared to change. And I think it's a very important movie. I marvel at Aaron Sorkin and his ability to say, well, we could tell the story this way, this way, this way. Let's do it this way.
Yeah, the very unorthodox
Very
way.
unorthodox.
Where does it compare to some of the other biopics of the past? You've got your Capote, you have your Amadeus, you've got your Raging Bull, you've got some of the all-time classics.
Actually, Capote is the movie that I kept thinking of, because I thought Capote was a very strong film that dared to tell.
And that's from Bennett Miller.
Tell a story in a different way. I thought in many ways, not surprisingly, Moneyball, which is
also a Bennett Miller
and Aaron Sorkin.
Right.
But Capote took a situation that we had heard much about, the writing of In Cold Blood, and looked behind to find out why he did what he did in a very public way, much the same way that Steve Jobs does. In the same way as Steve Jobs, it doesn't try to tell the entire Truman Capote story. It simply focuses on that one period of time.
Right. Which we saw with Lincoln, and then we also saw with Selma last year. We've seen it time and time again. That's kind of been the format now that biopics have taken.
And I think
gone away from the Gandhi approach.
I was going to say
which
Gandhi
just goes on for years, and you keep thinking you've had a birthday before it's over. You go back to The Queen, and I think The Queen is a very good example.
Oh yeah, that's
of
a great one.
Because it does take one incident, and it does help us
that's the aftermath,
imagine how the royal family would have handled that tragedy.
Right.
Whether or not these films, they aren't documentaries. They are fictional accounts based upon real people. And as long as we don't let ourselves get caught up in that historical
there's a
like
lot
Goodfellas,
of
you don't.
discussion of
how
true this is to Steve Jobs and whether he was who they portray him to be.
No, because the thing is, real life does not happen in 2 hours.
It also doesn't. People don't sound the way that Aaron Sorkin writes them either.
No, we would all. If he wrote this show, it would be very different.
We'd be snappy. We'd be walking.
And we'd be walking. We'd be
Yes,
walking.
up and down all the corridors.
But life doesn't happen in the way that it happens in the movie. So we can't expect a movie to totally reflect life. In the movies, an entire life decision may be made in 6 minutes, and that's a long scene. So I think that I get a little tired of that complaining.
I think it's interesting that Walter Isaacs approved this.
He was actually quite supportive of the film.
Oh, yeah.
Quite connected
He did
to
misname Seth Rogen, though. Like, he called him Derek, I think.
Derek?
Yeah.
But
Well,
Seth
like
Rogen, I think Michael Fassbender has to be with this performance now at the top of the heap for the Best Actor consideration. But Seth Rogen he's really good.
Yeah, I thought Jeff Daniels was the one that he really delivered.
He's such a good actor, and
he dominated
always
the scenes.
So good. And that was a really tricky role, because that role actually is someone who there is more public footage available than many of the others, and he was quite good.
And also kind of fictionalized. I think I read that they stopped talking after 85, so they brought him back for the last 2 parts of the movie, but when really they didn't have those dialogues at all.
Years ago, there was not a very good film called Mary, Queen of Scots, and Mary, Queen of Scots tried once again to tell the story of Queen Elizabeth and Mary of Scotland. And in this version, they met. History has claimed for years they never met.
Yeah.
But you know what? It made for a better movie. And
it definitely made for a better movie in this one that Daniels kept coming back.
It doesn't matter. It's kind of like when Frost Nixon came out, and I thought that was quite an interesting play and then film. We don't know if that was true, but it did help us imagine and help encourage us to learn more. This makes you want to learn more. This makes you want to learn more about Steve Jobs. I came back and YouTubed his speeches because I was so taken by the way Fassbender captured the nuance of Steve Jobs without bearing any physical resemblance.
Well, they said that wasn't really important during the Q&A, that they weren't going for physical resemblance. They were going for...
But they did the black turtleneck and
well,
the
he
jeans.
had
well, you got to do
that. He
You
has
got
to
to
morph into that
Yeah.
to that kind of cool look. He has to. He doesn't start cool.
No.
He gets cool.
Now, this is familiar territory for Aaron Sorkin, who's our real star of the week. He's done 3 biopics back to back to back with Moneyball. He did Social Network, and I believe it was Charlie Wilson's War before that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Charlie Wilson's War, I think that's certainly not in the same league as really anything he's done. What's interesting about Aaron Sorkin, his body of film work is fairly small. He's
only written 11 things, and he's one of the most renowned screenwriters.
But it's that work on
TV.
television. His work on television was so filmy in its television presence. You look at Sports Night, you look at The West Wing, and you look at Newsroom. They're like little movies. Newsroom especially.
Even Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip.
Yeah, that didn't
people
quite
hate it,
work.
but
That
I
didn't
really
quite work.
Had such a good cast.
Yeah, but Bradley he's great. But
other people in it were great too.
But I think you look at The West Wing and how daring it was for its moment, and how he wrote, really for the first 5 years, every episode.
Yeah, and you sense the passion in his work.
Mm-hmm.
There's always that kind of teaching that he's doing, like in the Newsroom. You know that half the episode is going to be about some point that Aaron Sorkin wants to make.
Right.
You know, to explain something that people just don't understand and they need to understand, and he's going to make sure he hammers it home.
And usually it's from a liberal viewpoint, because he wants us to see and hear things in a certain way and to act. He has a very strong sense of what people should do. It'll be interesting if the rumored biopic or look at Lucille Ball comes to pass.
I saw that, yeah.
Supposedly, he's in talks with Cate Blanchett to
that'd be
play
excellent.
Lucille Ball, and that would be quite exciting. You would love to see what he would do and how he would tell the story. What's most interesting in the structure of this film is how Danny Boyle doesn't really get the chance to Danny Boyle very often. The film doesn't have that kind of flashy visual thing that Danny Boyle can do.
He has the crowd scenes, though. Those are
but
they're very
this
short.
Is so intense between people, And I think Kate Winslet is the other.
I thought it was a good
Rose.
match, though, Danny Boyle. He had the right energy for the
Yeah,
Sorkin script.
yeah.
Do you think this is Sorkin's best? I know he won the Academy Award for Social Network.
I think that you go back to The Social Network, which I just recently watched again, and it's a marvelous film. It's also very much a David Fincher film. This is Sorkin's film. This is his
Yeah, you
film.
can tell that.
This is
Yeah.
his movie. And you just, the power of the words and the power of the characters and the relationships, and that the whole relationship between Jobs and Kate Winslet is fascinating, and how she's really the speaker of truth in his life. She's his conscience.
And he needed one.
And he needed one.
And we get to watch these people in a way that movies are what enable us to see inside of people.
Before we head to our first break, just pick your favorite biopic while we're on the subject.
Well, this one's close to the top of the list. I love Lincoln. I love Capote. I love Pollock. I love the Harvey Milk film with Sean Penn. I think that was, in the same way as this film, very much a portrait of the times, not simply a portrait of the man.
And what about you, Sally?
Well, I was thinking about My Left Foot, which
Oh yeah,
wonderful
My
movie.
Left Foot. That's a
Wonderful
classic.
movie.
one of the early ones where they took a disability. You know, it's sort of like makes you think of Elephant Man,
Yeah,
I
Elephant
think,
Man's
well,
another good
Elephant,
example.
yeah.
which is
Elephant
another
Man,
one.
yeah.
And but an actor who just goes so completely into a character and does it so perfectly.
Yeah, I would go with My Left Foot is definitely up there on mine, but Schindler's List is one that we
Oh,
haven't
there's
discussed.
so many. Yeah.
Goodfellas.
Lawrence of Arabia.
Lawrence of Arabia is definitely
Yeah.
up there, and also Good Night and Good Luck, which I know we've talked about several times.
Yeah.
But I think like those are the kind of movies that not only inform you about the person, but also the times.
Yeah,
Of
and that's
what
the
was going
wonderful
on.
thing that movies do, is they let us into periods of time when we don't live. They let us see people we haven't met, and they let us imagine how things may have been. That's the best thing that a movie does.
I have one that I wanted to throw out, which I read about is in development. Steven Spielberg is hoping to direct a film with Jennifer Lawrence as Lindsay Addario, who's the photographer who was captured in, I believe, Libya and held hostage
That could be
with two
very
other Times reporters. She's from Westport, and she's spoken around here and shown her work around here, and she's written a book. So I imagine it's based on her book. But that sounds like a really
you would love
good
to
project.
see what he brings out in Jennifer Lawrence, because
Yeah.
she's such a strong actress.
Yeah.
You're describing that story makes me think of the Daniel Pearl movie, Mighty
Yeah.
Heart, which is such a strong film.
Another one, yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna head off to our first break.
Okay.
When we come back, we're gonna talk Back to the Future, Star Wars, and Ben-Hur the remake.
Please.
Darien Sport Shop is a unique store because it's a family store. A busy mom can come in with kids in tow and find everything she needs for them, and even find a dress for herself for Saturday night. And if she's in a rush, she can simply go home and order it from us that night. We'll deliver it the next day. The Darien Sport Shop. We're pretty on the outside and amazing on the inside. Conveniently located with free and easy parking at 1127 Post Road, Darien, Connecticut. Or shop us online at dariensport.com.
In Pound Ridge since 1993, the Wine Connection is one of America's best wine shops. Visit our beautiful store for the greatest in wine and knowledgeable service. With wonderful values from around the world to collectibles for your cellar, we are your one-stop source. Visit our online shop at wineconn.com and make sure to sign up for email updates. With great offers, new arrivals, and special events, don't miss all the action at The Wine Connection, including tastings every weekend. The Wine Connection, located at 32 Westchester Avenue, Pound Ridge, New York.
Do you do a lot of running around but get nowhere when you're buying a car? Visit Pamby Chrysler Jeep Dodge and Ram for the one-stop buying experience and stop spinning your wheels.
Back to school means back to busy, and Stewart's Market can save you precious time by stocking all of your favorite essentials under one roof. For a healthy start to school, we have all the ingredients. Walter Stewart's, your family-owned fresh local market, 229 Elm Street and at stewartsmarket.com.
Does buying a car leave you feeling like you're chasing your tail? Head straight to Pamby Chrysler Jeep Dodge and Ram and take car buying in a whole new direction.
Alliance. We are an industry leader in coordinating transportation for large events such as corporate road shows, conferences, and special events. Our team of experts understands the dynamics and logistics of high-pressure situations and complex arrangements, all within a rapidly changing environment. Since 1999, we have added charter jets, event management, and personal protection to our range of services. Mention this ad for $25 off your next round-trip reservation. Alliance and you. Together, we can achieve the extraordinary. 855-546-6996 or alliancelimo.com.
Welcome back to HN Arts and Leisure. Yesterday marked a very important day in not only world history but also film history. It was October 21st, 2015, which is the day that Marty McFly, all the way back in 1989, came back, or I should say came back, he went forward in time.
You know,
But he was coming forward in time from
Right.
85, not
Yeah.
89, so don't
Yeah.
confuse
All
people
right.
with
I
that.
mean, for those of us who lived the period, those 4 years were essential.
Yeah.
But to think that way back then, 2015 was this, we couldn't ever imagine that we would ever have been old enough to live in 2015. And you think about all the many predictions of life in 2015 contained in that film, and how some of them have come true and some of them didn't. I think the most sensitive may be that it does predict a World Series victory for the Chicago
For the Cubs, which did not
Which
come
is-
true
but it
last
came
night.
Yeah,
close. It came close.
They were.
It's-
It was almost on
close.
point, but close
Almost.
only exists in
almost,
horseshoes.
you know,
so.
it didn't have,
And hand grenades.
and it does, you know, predict the absolute reign of the fax machine, which is somewhat a victim of passing time.
Hoverboards.
It does predict the movie Jaws 19, which I fear is probably in the works.
And then, of course, it was playing at the Prospector Theater yesterday. They had a nice special showing of it to mark
Which
the
is
anniversary.
great. It really is worth going back to see. It's so much fun. Michael J. Fox is such a special actor, and he makes it work. He just makes it work. I think it's one that, go back and see the original. I'm not a big fan of the sequels. I think by the time they got to number 3 and they were just bouncing around for the fun of it.
I thought the
lost
second one,
its-
Robert
it-
Zemeckis did a good job
It
with.
lost its zing, but
Its
the first
oomph.
one is really a special film.
Right.
It's really special.
All right, so if the HN family pick of the week that's just the first one, you don't want to say binge the whole series?
No, I wouldn't binge the whole series, but I would really look for all the discussion of alternative fuels. I just think it's great, and I love the scene of the Texaco people.
And of course, that's not the only sci-fi movie that made a big splash this week.
Oh, my goodness,
On Monday
no.
night, the premiere, I should say the trailer of Star Wars came out and kind of shook the whole,
All you
the whole
have
world.
to do is just hear the first strains of that theme, and you're
right
there.
back.
You're
You're right
there.
back.
You have to go. You have to go. You have to find a way to get a ticket.
I can wait till the day after.
Oh, I don't know.
I'm not waiting. I know Eric got
Did
his
you-
tickets.
I don't. But you know, in the old days when we actually had to go to the theater and stand in line for
Yeah.
hours, I stood in line 6 hours to see that movie the first time.
Did you?
And I feel like
this
the
time, what did you do? Sit on your computer and
For 6 hours, and it kept going, return, till I found.
and so
a
you got
ticket.
tickets?
I did.
All right.
I did.
And the new cast looks great, and I love every scene of that trailer because it's like they are weaving all the characters together
And
slowly.
they're just playing with our memory. It's so
Yeah.
wonderful.
because they're
And-
so quick.
And then you know this will be the scene where we see Harrison Ford. No.
Yep.
This will be the scene, and then is there a Carrie Fisher? And you do see Carrie Fisher
She,
for just a
weeping.
second,
Yeah.
and she seems very worried about a child, probably.
Was I wrong that Han Solo kind of looked like he's taken over the role of like historian of sorts?
Well,
He's
I think
kind of like
he's
the.
become Obi-Wan Kenobi.
was
Yeah,
wondering
yeah.
if he was going to be.
I got the vibe that he was kind of the one who
No.
was going to feed them all this past detail, and he was kind of the source of knowledge, which
Now,
is an
where was
interesting
Luke
turn.
Skywalker?
I didn't see him.
Did you?
I
did
didn't
you
see him.
touch
Didn't see him.
I didn't see him.
No,
So
okay.
who knows? Who knows? And we've had to make,
Look
you know,
at
we've
that
had to make
face,
it. We've
though,
had to
on-
make
on
adjustments
Harrison Ford.
for Mark Hamill before, if you recall
Yeah.
the beginning of The
Car
Empire
crash.
Strikes Back. But what is wonderful, one of my daughters-in-law had never seen Star Wars.
Oh no!
Oh,
And
terrible.
I
is
did
she
as
from
the
another country?
no, no. And I simply and is now in love with the film. And I said, you know, this is a film that no matter what age you are when you first see it,
You always
you
remember it.
return to that childlike wonder.
Oh,
and that's
yeah.
what the trailer does. Is it helps us?
yeah.
It helps us imagine.
Yeah, we don't have the trailer, but we have basically every
some-
image from it.
Oh, I
which
just
is
can't.
great.
It's just going to be too much fun, and it'll be great fun to talk about as we get.
Yeah, so the new
towards
cast is
Christmas.
loaded too. You got Daisy Ridley, who looks like she's going to be the star of the film with Oscar Isaac as well, and John Bodega.
And Oscar Isaac, how
Thank you,
great?
sorry.
How great is that? I mean, he can play anything.
Yeah, it's a
Can
really
play
talented
anything.
group of people. And then Adam Driver's the villain, who we didn't really see, but we saw him peaks, and it got me excited.
But they're so smart in how they're marketing it. It is an event, and they are building upon years of anticipation. And let's just hope
We can
that.
just forget those other three then, right?
Well, the third one I always kind of
Yeah, I loved
enjoyed.
Revenge
liked
of the
third
Sith.
one. The first one was painful. It
Yeah.
was painful.
Well, that's what happens when you rely too much on like a childhood actor.
Yeah. So, but I can't wait. It'll make Christmas really fun.
Well, J.J. Abrams has been kind of flexing his marketing muscle. There's one movie that's a reboot that's coming out next year that hasn't been doing so well, and that's Ben-Hur, the remake.
Why?
Why? And it's really not doing well because it's been delayed, and they're saying now it's going to be August 2016 when originally I think it was supposed to be coming out in April.
And who is starring in it?
John Huston, or Jack Huston.
Jack Huston. And then
Huston.
Morgan Freeman is in it. What's most interesting, the Ben-Hur that we all remember, the 1959 version, is in fact a remake. There was an original silent version made in 1926, 25. I wasn't alive for it, but it was a silent film, and they had to, of course, mock up all these special effects to do the great chariot scene. The 1959 film is famous for the chariot scene, one of the great spectacles of all time. And you just have to ask yourself the question, why does this need to be remade? We've already had the definitive look at this. What else can they do? Now, maybe they'll surprise us, but it doesn't sound good when a movie keeps
delays.
going back for repairs.
It's one of those things where I feel like Star Wars has the advantage because they can cut costs with all the special effects, whereas Ben-Hur, it's like if you're going to do special effects for the horse scenes and everything, it's just not going to look good. So you have to get all the real horses, and then you have to pay for the horses, and then if they're not aligned correctly, it's going to cost more and more, and then it's reshoots, and then all this stuff that could happen that's just catastrophic.
And the thing that is wonderful about the first film, I mean, it does last like a week, but you so care for the characters, and Charlton Heston, and perhaps he did continue to give the same performance in movie after movie, but he's just right in that part. He shouldn't have won an Oscar that year. It's hard to believe that he beat Jack Lemmon in Some Like It Hot and James Stewart in Anatomy of a Murder. That is kind
You'll
of
always
hard
remember those, right?
kind of hard, but it's a film that didn't need to be remade, and it's one of many that, as we've talked about before, we just can't imagine why these have to be remade.
And that's what makes Ben-Hur our for real pick of the week, because it's just flabbergasting.
It's for real question mark.
Yeah, for real question mark, of course.
I don't get it.
Mark, as always, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Great talk, and we'll be
Okay.
back after the break with some weekend events.
Yes.
Here at the Darien Sports Shop, we are very excited about our newly redesigned men's department. Gentlemen, if you're shopping for work, weekend, or wedding, we've got the latest styles and trends inside our spacious new department just for you. We have vast selections from Peter Millar, Vineyard Vines, Johnny O, Duckhead, Barber, and so much more. And you can even walk out of the store in the new Wolverine 1,000-mile men's boot. Conveniently located with free and easy parking at 1127 Post Road, Darien, Connecticut. Or shop us online at dariensport.com.
When you experience a sports injury, you want to get better and fast. Coastal Ortho Express gives you direct access to orthopedic care quickly. Their physicians are fellowship trained in sports medicine at world-class universities and are also team doctors for area football teams. For specialized personal care of sports injuries, go to Coastal Ortho Express. Open Monday through Saturday in the iPark Building, 761 Main Avenue in Norwalk, or coastalorthoexpress.com. Coastal Orthopedics, keeping you on the move.
While the temperatures are cooling down, the fall bite is heating up. Albies, bonita, blackfish, alligator blues, and stripers are following the large schools of bait that are abundant in the Long Island Sound. If you love the New England coast during autumn, this is the time to be on the water. The latest from Shimano, Quantum, Avet, Hoagie, Phase 2 and more are in stock and ready to go at the Dock Shop. And don't mind those fall breezes with jackets, hats, gloves, and fleece from Grundens and Stormer. The Dock Shop will keep you warm and dry. Boater, beach bum, fisherman, or simply love the New England coast, this is a unique place to shop. The Dock Shop, now in 2 locations, 51 Tokenique Road, Darien, 609 Riverside Avenue, Westport, or on the web, dockshop.com.
Welcome back to HAN Arts and Leisure. We got some weekend highlights for you, including a big announcement today from the Beardsley Zoo, our good friends there.
Stuff.
They've got a red panda there named Rokon. It's a 16-month-old panda that's going to be temporarily living in Bridgeport, and people should go see it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
They're cute little buggers. They look kind of like a combination of a raccoon and a cat.
And it's perfect timing for the zoo, which is going to have a ton of events. They've got the Halloween on the 23rd, 24th, 30th, and 31st. Fridays are going to be 6:30 to 9, and then on Saturdays it's also going to be 6:30 to 10. So there's a lot of cool events that are going on at the Beardsley Zoo, and this will be the big kind of highlight, the red panda.
Yeah, come dressed up and surprise the panda. He's going to be in the Tropics building, they said.
Right.
So.
And then you also have got Boo at the Zoo, which is noon to 3:30 Sunday, October 25th.
Yes, lots of stuff going on at the zoo for Halloween. Another thing in Bridgeport this weekend is Spooky Science at the Discovery Museum, which is on Park Avenue, and that's going to be going on throughout the day. They have activities for children 7 and up and for ages 4 to 6. And if you want to sign up for some of these events before you go, visit discoverymuseum.org or call them at 203-372-3521. They're going to have animals from the Animal Embassy, which is over at the Stanford Museum and Nature Center normally. And usually they have some nice reptiles and other creatures.
In case you didn't want the panda, you can go check out the reptiles.
You can go see, yes, you can.
Laurelton Hall is going to be doing a little shop of horrors Friday, October 23rd at 7:30, Saturday, October 24th at 7. And also Sunday.
Always a good Halloween show.
Yeah, and Sunday, October 25th at 2. That's going to be at 70 West River Street in Milford. That should be a really good time for your family. Tickets are $15 for adults, $10 for students and seniors. For more information, laureltonhall.org or call 203-877-2786, extension 154.
Cool. Another play is the Town Players of New Canaan. They're doing The Mystery of Edwin Drood. And this is by Rupert Holmes, who has actually contributed some new material to the play for this particular production. That's opening Friday night, and it's going to be running through November 1st. And at the matinee on November 1st, Rupert Holmes is going to be in the audience.
Oh, that would be cool.
And he's also going to take questions after the show.
So that's a little after Halloween fun.
Yeah, well, you can start it this weekend. And
you can roll it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a musical within a musical murder mystery, which is a lot of stuff.
I love multi-layered plays and stuff like that.
And you can get information on tickets at tpnc.org, or you can call the box office at 203-966-7371.
Halloween Farm Festival is going to be taking place at the Trumbull Biotechnology Center at 536 Daniels Farm Road. It's going to be a fun time Saturday from 9 to 3, October 24th. Activities for a nominal fee will include a haunted hallway, tractor rides, children's games, bouncy house, face painting, and spin art. There will also be a bake sale. For more information, call 203-943-9283.
Good. Ginkgo nuts. You know what they are?
I have no idea.
Ginkgo trees drop this fruit in the fall that is really disgustingly stinky as far as I'm concerned. But wild man Steve Brill, who is a fellow who leads foraging tours, is going to be at Danbury's Terrywell Park on Saturday at 1 o'clock, and he's going to be taking a group out to look for natural foods in the parklands, meadows and forest. And one of the things he expects to find are ginkgo nuts, which he describes as tasting like a combination of green peas, Limburger cheese with the texture of soybeans. Sound appealing?
I can't wait. I'm going to be there.
Okay, and they're going to be looking for herbs and fruits and greens and seeds and roots and mushrooms as well. It's a 3-hour walk, so it's probably
You're
not
gonna be pretty
good
exhausted,
for
yeah.
little children. The suggested donation is $20 for adults and $10 for children under 12. And he asks that you call him and register 24 hours before the walk. His phone number is 914-835-2153. Terry Wild Park is at 70 Southern Boulevard in Danbury, which is in the southern end of Danbury.
And that's Wildman Steve Brill.
Mm-hmm.
That should be a lot of fun. That wraps up the weekend events. There's plenty more online.
At arts.hersamacorn.com.
There you go. That's your catchphrase. You
almost got it down.
Anyways, that's going to end the show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back next week to talk more movies and more weekend events.